ever watch Magomed ref a fight, he stands there like this. He's doing his fucking grocery list, thinking about did he TiVo the fucking his favorite show.
Here we go again. Welcome to another carefully chosen selection where we cover the fights of famous fighters with questionable referee decisions. You know the drill. Subscribe and like the video, and don't forget to enjoy. At UFC Fight Night 169 in Virginia, United States, in the match before the co-main event, there was a fight between Magomed Ankalaev and Cutelaba. The fight was scheduled for August 16, 2020, but was canceled and postponed for 15 days. Although the face-off at the weigh-in went quite smoothly considering that Cutelaba was participating in it after being introduced by Bruce Buffer, and security had to intervene and stop the fight before the fight. The very start of the match became intense, and after 30 seconds, during one of Cutelaba's attacks, Ankalaev intercepted and managed to rock Ion. The Russian followed the counterattack with a high kick, and Cutelaba was not fully aware, but still stood in front of Magomed. Ankalaev connected a couple of more high kicks, but regardless of the activity of the Moldovan fighter, the referee jumped in to stop the match. Cutelaba looked shaken and almost finished, but given his desire to have a quality fistfight with the Russian, it seemed as if his wobbly stance played a role in luring Ankalaev into his counter. However, controversial decision
that he can't control himself and he's trying to throw haymakers. But he's also definitely getting hit too, so I could see how the referee fell for it. But you gotta let guys fight.
There was a rematch in which Magomed left no doubts and a brutal knockout. If the next stoppage doesn't enrage you, then nothing will. In 2019 at UFC 235, a match was scheduled between the fan favorite Robbie Lawler and the newly arrived fighter Ben Askren. This match didn't last long either, and the referee's decision was frustrating for all hardcore Lawler fans. Askren does what Askren always does and immediately goes to hug Robbie. After a desperate attempt by Ben to take his back, Robbie once again justifies his nickname, picks up Askren, and slams him from the floor in spectacular fashion. The only thing more brutal than the throw was the siege of strikes that followed. 21 clean blows smashed Askren's head, and it's a miracle how he survived. After more hugs, the injured Askren caught Robbie and put him in a bulldog choke. Everyone thought Robbie was out. Referee Herb Dean waved it off, and Lawler immediately got up to protest. He was infuriated, and the background story is that Ben actually blocked both of his ears. After Herb ran in to see if Lawler was conscious, he thought his arm was limp and he stopped the match. Before he could give a thumbs up, Herb had already separated the fighters.
So I'm trying to see this thumbs up. Was the thumb going up or was the thumb in a thumbs up position going this way?
Right, like as the arm drops, was the thumb in a thumbs up position.
So when I give somebody a thumbs up, like I would say somebody, good job.
You want this.
Good job, buddy.
Right.
Among the bad refereeing decisions, it would be a shame not to include the king of bad decisions, Mario Yamasaki. The heavyweight main event headlined at UFC Fight Night 105 by Derrick Lewis and Travis Browne ended fatally for Travis's brain cells. As always in the heaviest category, the fight began slowly. Travis had his chance when he stabbed Lewis in the stomach with a front kick, but was not persistent enough to finish him off. After Browne relaxed in the attacks, Derrick took advantage of the mistake, caught his low kick, and sent him to the floor with a heavy right hand. Finally, both men threw rear hooks, and Lewis landed in the middle of Travis's head. The Black Beast dropped a few ground and pound bombs and stopping the fight.
That's it! Stop it! Stop it! Oh my God, he took too many shots. Took too many shots.
Browne suffered as many as 8 additional blows until Mario was convinced that he was unconscious. Did you know you can win a match if your opponent spends the entire round hitting you from full mount? Neither did we. In 2009 at the UFC, the Ultimate Fighter 10 finale in the co-main event, the legendary Jon Jones suffered the first and only defeat in his career, as young Jones entered the match against 10-year-older Matt Hammil. After a competitive start of the fight in the striking department and a couple of nice shots from both sides, Jon Jones came to the clinch with Hammil, has him exactly where he wanted, and sends him to the ground with a superb trip. Johnny Boy gets into the full mount position without any problems and spends the next 2 minutes releasing a mixture of over 50 elbows and fists on Hammil's head, and referee Steve Mazzagatti stops the fight and separates the fighters. Although many thought Jones was the winner, Steve actually stopped the match because Jones used illegal 12-6 elbows and due to Matt not being able to continue the match. The real problem arose when it was found out that Hammil could not continue the match due to a dislocated shoulder and not due to elbow strikes, and wins by DQ.
He was destroying Hammil and he was disqualified. It wasn't a real loss like somebody beat him. He's beaten everybody. That's unprecedented. Outside of Khabib Nurmagomedov, nobody beats everybody. Jon's beaten everybody.
This match will forever remain a black mark on Jones's prestigious career. The young Nurmagomedov has also seen some awful judging in his career, but he's never been on the wrong side of it. Khabib, as always, was the one who gave the punishment. The Dagestanian climbed the UFC rankings with a record of 19 victories without defeat, and at the UFC on FX in 2012, his opponent was a Brazilian fighter, Thiago Tavares. Although Khabib is known for decision fights, this one ended quickly, but referee Dan Miragliotta still had enough time to make a mistake. Tavares immediately pressed Nurmagomedov, but after 2 minutes of the fight, Khabib floors him with an attractive front uppercut, get on top of his opponent, and this time was no different. Khabib took a dominant side position with one leg between the opponent's legs, and with the other leg, he blocked Tavares' right hand, due to which the Brazilian could not adequately defend himself. This was followed by one of the more brutal ground and pound finishes ever seen in the UFC, where Khabib, with 15 killer punches and elbows, destroyed the helpless Thiago. The referee could have done a much better job, and following him with the other will surely appear in the dreams of the Brazilian as long as he lives. Today, Matt Browne is a veteran of the sport with over 40 matches, known for his toughness and brutality, and is not afraid to deliver the highest level of violence in the cage. Accordingly, judges in his matches should include all senses to protect the fighters, and you'll see why. At UFC 96 in 2009, in the welterweight match, Matt Browne vs. Pete Sell warmed up the audience in a superb way for the main fights, but the same cannot be said for Yves Lavigne. The match started with fireworks and hard punches without touching the gloves, and Mike was going full force. After a couple of high kicks, he immediately shook Sell, sending him to the floor with 2 clean hooks. And before engaging in ground and pound, the referee intervened to stop the match, but quickly changed his mind when he saw Peter was trying to stand up. Obviously, Sell was not in his right mind, but the referee signaled for the fight to continue. Browne proceeded with multiple knee strikes at the already injured opponent, who, in survival mode, began to grapple, exposing his head to brutal and unnecessary blows. He continued to punish Peter until the referee realized that he should stop the match. When a violent man like Matt protests a late stoppage, it means it is definitely late. In 2012 at UFC on Fuel TV 4, referee Josh Rosenthal managed to ruin the middleweight main event of the night between Chris Wiedman and Mark Munoz.
Chris Wiedman, and he can roll his eyes however he wants, because he rolled his eyes at the press conference, but hey, I know I can beat him. So.
Without much of a stand-up, Wiedman took down Munoz right away and spent a good part of the round on him without much of an attractive fight accompanied by boos from the crowd. Wiedman implemented his wrestling game plan successfully, but the audience was clearly not ready to see it. Too much hugging and not enough action. After a dull first round, Munoz opened the second round aggressively, trying to threaten the American wrestler, but ran straight into a single leg, which is why they ended up on the ground again. However, referee Josh Rosenthal didn't notice it, and Wiedman unleashed as many as 16 unnecessary blows on the unconscious opponent, painting the floor of the octagon with his blood. The fight lasted an extra 10 seconds due to the referee's inattention, and it was Munoz who paid the ultimate price. Not so long ago at UFC 263, whose card was one of the best in the era when Paul Craig choked people for fun, and Jamahal Hill was not yet the champion. There was a fight between the two in the main event of the evening. Bruce Buffer's announcement and the attitude of the two fighters completely delighted the audience, and the referee, Al Guinea, was ready to take the fight away. A very important fight for the both of them, and everyone assumed it wouldn't go the distance. The classic matchup between striker and grappler started tensely, with many measurements from both sides. Craig used the first opportunity in close contact to clinch and pull guard, which is unusual for MMA fights. After some scrambling, Paul caught a perfect armbar, from which Hill managed to escape but ended up in a triangle with a broken arm. Hill was clearly suffering in a tightly locked submission, and to make matters worse, Paul was punishing him with strikes. Commentators, spectators, and the crowd noticed what was happening, everyone except the referee. After, Craig prolonged the agony with brutal elbows to the scalp of his opponent's head. The referee finally remembered to stop the bout, leaving Hill in disbelief with a broken arm. What was the worst stoppage for you? Which made you even more angry? Leave us your opinion in the comments. Share the video, and don't forget the subscribe button. We'll see you soon. Peace.